And welcome back to Subculture. Well, we're about to play a very, very beautiful track for you here on the station, but this is more than just a track that we're going to play because this is the brand new single from Ari Jacobs from his amazing album, but this is also the soundtrack to a musical that is coming up if you're in Melbourne as well. So to find out a little bit more about the album, the track, and the musical, we've actually got Ari on the phone right now. Welcome to the program, Ari.
Hey, thanks, Dave. Thanks for having me.
No worries. Now, Ari, this sounds like a lot. A track, an album, a musical. Tell us a little bit about what's going on in your life at the moment with all this amazing music.
Thanks, man. So basically this musical is a concept that I've been developing for like 6 years. The title is Sun Called Moon, that's sun with an O. And it started as a musical that I wrote a whole bunch of songs for, and I kind of came and went from the project over the course of 6 years. And last year I wrote another batch of 10 songs, and then I recorded them with a live band over 4 days. And this year I'm putting those songs on the stage as a musical. So I'm weaving in the original story that I'd written for Sun Called Moon with these new songs. This is the first time that this piece is going to the stage, and I'm releasing the music now and then over the next month so that people can get to know the tunes before they come see the show.
So tell us a little bit about that journey with the musical. What is the general story of the musical, and also where did that idea come about for you in the first place?
Yeah. So the musical tells the story of a boy called Moon and his relationship with this sort of unusual, ever-present feminine character whose name is Sun. And basically the whole thing is sort of, on the one hand, a mythical fable or sort of great metaphor for how the moon became the moon, but it's also a very intimate, personal story about the relationship between these two characters. And it's really a story about asking questions, it's a story about freedom. The whole thing is sort of a commentary on modern-day religion, and also weaves into it a lot of symbolism and narratives from Judaism and from Jewish mysticism. And it's sort of the main themes are a lot about asking questions, a lot about freedom, a lot about knowledge, a lot about shame and vulnerability. And it's really a story of developing a relationship with God and using that relationship to be a better person and to have a greater influence on our surroundings.
So you've also travelled extensively through Israel. How has that influenced your work as well?
I moved to Israel 7 years ago. I just moved back to Australia about 6 months ago.
Yep.
And those 7 years in Israel were incredibly formative. I mean, the place is just really kind of charged with spiritual energy and with really interesting people and lots of interesting stories. And I found myself kind of going on lots of different religious and spiritual kind of trips within myself. Explored a lot of Eastern religions and philosophies, and then explored Orthodox Judaism kind of from the inside and from the outside. And I think it made me like quite a hungry sort of thinker. It's just, it's such a complicated, emotionally charged place that it kind of sends you into a pretty sort of existential philosophical way of being. But also I was surrounded by really incredible artists in Tel Aviv when I was living there, and they became my collaborators for this project. And actually there are 5 Israelis who are here now for a couple of months working on the stage production.
Oh, tell us about that side of it. What was that like, bringing artists over from Israel to work on this performance? Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, so we're quite an interesting sort of collective. It's me and 5 friends who, over the last 5 years, have recorded 5 albums together. We've recorded 1 for each of us. We're not really a band, but we kind of have all gathered together on each other's projects in a sort of very generous and, kind of devoted way, just giving whatever we have to offer to each project. And this was kind of the peak of it for us. We've flown to Berlin twice to record albums for some of the other people of the collective. And this time we managed to get everybody here to Australia, for like a longer stint for a couple of months to work on the project. So we have the artistic director, the musical director, and one of the musicians and the producer are all here from Israel.
Awesome. Ari, you mentioned before that when you're working on this project, it was kind of a project that you would work on for a while and then pick it up a little bit later on as well. Was that because it was such a personal piece for you?
Definitely. I think I was really evolving a lot over those years, and every time I would kind of work on the musical for a little while and think that I understood the way it was supposed to end, and then something else in my life would happen and it would throw the whole story back into question. And they say that like we live life in cycles of 7, and there was something about getting to the end of this 7 years in Israel that I felt like whatever this musical kind of is about in its essence, it felt like it was a lesson that I'd kind of internalized and learned, and that was ready to be communicated and expressed in art.
Awesome. I cannot wait to head along and check it out. I've got to say, this is something that as soon as I read about it, it really, really fascinated me. So for our listeners who are thinking about heading along to Chapel Off Chapel during the season, what can they expect from this production? I mean, we know the music is beautiful. What can we expect when we head along to see the actual production?
Well, you can expect an on-stage band, 9-piece band, string section, and really, really beautiful, sensitive musicians who are going to be kind of on stage and very much integrated into the world of the story. You can expect lots of wood and kind of a very warm, intimate sort of feeling in the room. You can expect really kind of unexpected moments of interaction with the audience. And I think you can expect just like really kind of heartfelt performances from actors who, the way that we're leading them through this process is very much about being who they are and sort of finding their own narrative in this story rather than playing a character. It's very much about the people in the room and the connections we have, and we spend a lot of time sharing and talking, and it's not just like work, work, work. So I think they can expect something very, very vulnerable and real.
Definitely. And I love the fact that you have released the soundtrack before the musical is actually held, because, of course, when people head along and they check out a show like Chicago, they know all the tracks and they're able to sing along. But quite often if you go to see a new musical, you don't know the music. So therefore you don't have that connection that you do with older pieces of work. Was that something that was important to you, that you wanted people to connect with the show before they come along to see it at Chapel Off Chapel?
Definitely. I mean, I think it was definitely important for them to have it before, but even more so, like, for them to have it after, you know, because I know that feeling of coming to hear music that just moves you so much, and the first thing you want to do is get home and listen to it again and reconnect to it. So definitely so that they can get a taste of it, but also for people who come and feel connected to it, that they can go home and sort of relive that connection and like ponder the lyrics more deeply and sort of go deeper with it.
Definitely. So we're about to play Permission, the brand new track that's been released from the musical, on our show in just a moment. Tell us a little bit about Permission. Where does that fall into the musical, and what was your ideas and themes behind this track?
Well, I won't give away too much, but Permission is definitely sort of the resolution I'd say the resolution of the musical. I was actually commissioned to write this song for an art exhibition in Tel Aviv that was dealing with the Book of Job. Yep. Which is a sort of very sad biblical story about a man who kind of has everything taken away from him and goes through great suffering. And I was commissioned to write this song, and I actually was watching a movie of this famous book by Mark Manson from the last kind of 10 years called The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck. Yep. And he actually said this really beautiful sentence there. He said that the sign of a healthy relationship is when two people have permission to disappoint each other. Yep. And that really stuck with me. And then I thought about that sentence in the context of man's relationship with God, and how God, will sort of always be disappointed by us because we will never be perfect. And we will constantly be disappointed by God because we will constantly have to come to terms with suffering, because that's just a part of life, and that's a part of the growth that we need to experience in life. So there's this kind of mutual disappointment at the premise of our relationship with God that has to be accepted in order to kind of go one level deeper into what it means to be alive. So that's kind of the song. It's a duet between man and God.
That is absolutely amazing. Well, I am so proud to be able to play it on our show in just a moment. And for all our listeners out there, if you do want to see Sun Called Moon, the musical, it's on in Melbourne from the 22nd of June to the 25th of June at Chapel Off Chapel. We will put all the dates and times up on our website as well, because there are at the times change depending on the day that you're going along to see it. So we'll put all of that up on subcultureentertainment.com. But Ari, where can people grab a copy of the soundtrack now if they want to grab a copy of the soundtrack?
So the full album hasn't been released yet. It will be in 2-3 weeks, but there are 2 singles which have been released. Feel It Coming and Permission are both on my Spotify under Ari Jacob. And there's also a live session of the recording of one of the other songs, Daniel, which is on YouTube. The Sun Called Moon YouTube and the Ari Jacob YouTube as well.
Awesome. Well, Ari, to finish off, what would you like to say to people out there who are thinking about heading along and checking out the musical and are about to listen to this amazing brand new track right now?
Oh man, I would just say thank you for putting yourselves out there and coming to experience new art, and that I hope it touches you in some way, in a way that you can take with you afterwards.
Definitely. And for all of our listeners out there, once again, Sun Called Moon, the musical, is on in Melbourne from the 22nd of June to the 25th of June at Chapel Off Chapel. All of the details of the times and dates are up on our website, subcultureentertainment.com.